There's nothing different about how today's video looks. Look, there are no bad worlds, just bad world building. You want to make sure that your novel's world is not built on a foundation of sand. Unless it's Dune, then you're probably fine. Nothing will sabotage your work like a poorly crafted world, so to help you avoid that, here are a few signs that your world building is not quite up to code. You did file for a building permit with the county office, right? Wait, do they even have county offices in this world? Alright, sign number 1 of iffy world building, weird technological anachronisms. If you've ever had a battle scene where someone is injured by a bronze-bladed weapon and then gets hauled off to see a doctor who has a working understanding of germ theory and quasi-modern surgical techniques, then that's a problem. You want to make sure that the technological landscape of your world is coherent with itself. Your world can't be massively advanced in one area and still in the Stone Age in another. While there are opportunities to show how a culture developed technologically in a different way, you don't want any obvious anachronisms that are going to draw the reader's attention. This also applies to magical or mystical concepts and abilities. If your world regularly harnesses fire-breathing people in battle, it's also highly likely that they are used in industry as well. Try to avoid any weird mismatches in technological abilities that will draw the reader's attention. Next up, sign number 2 of iffy world building, a lack of intrapopulation variability. There's a tendency among a lot of world builders to sort of personify entire cultures or entire groups within their world. This group is the warrior race, this group is the scientific eggheads, this group is the drama nerds, this group all wears weird triangle hats. This isn't so much a problem as just a missed opportunity and a sign that your world building might be a little bit flat. It might be lacking a little bit of depth. While it's true that many real-world cultural and national groups have certain identities, it's also true that there exists a tremendous amount of variability within those groups most of the time. Weaving together the sort of broad generalizations within a cultural group with the individuality of a specific character within that group is a really important thing to do. In fact, it almost makes it feel easier because you can create a lot of foiling dynamics between that character and the group they belong to. Everyone has some kind of cultural worldview that gets imposed upon them by their upbringing. People respond and rebel against that to different degrees and also interpret it in different ways. If every character is just this strange personification of the culture they come from, or if it's hard to tell the characters of a certain culture apart, it kind of doesn't work. You want to show the interaction between that culture and the individual characters within that culture. Even the most homogeneous cultural groups are not completely monolithic, and the characters from those groups shouldn't be either. Next up, sign number 3 of poor world building, too many proper nouns. Aflagar, son of Detronianius, leader of the clan Masmerianagi from the lands of the 7 Preselendiers, and bearer of the holy alms of Titriandria, who must journey across the sea of Multifidus with his loyal Antrillelier Vinoporandia? Do I need to say more on this one, or do you get the point? I have nothing against conlangs, and if you like coming up with names for different things in your world, then I don't want to discourage you from that. But don't waste too much of your energy giving fantasy-ish or sci-fi-ish names to things that already exist in our world. There's a balance between creating that otherworldly feeling and just overloading the reader with a bunch of words that they don't understand. Titriandria is just a teacup, by the way. Next up, sign number 4 of poor world building, not focusing on limitations. Most good storytelling emerges from limitations rather than strengths. Your novel will be way more interesting if your magical flying ironing board doesn't work on Tuesdays. If you are overly focused on the technological or magical capabilities of your world, then your story may suffer because these things just aren't as interesting. It's not as interesting to see magic or technology used to solve problems that are within the bounds of their capability. It's much more interesting to see those things used in inventive or creative ways to solve problems that are outside the bounds of their capability. In other words, it's much more interesting to explore the limitations of a culture, magic, or technology than it is to just see the strengths of those things. There's a reason that so many stories focus on long lost or forgotten magic, or technology that we don't quite fully understand, or on small, poorly equipped bands of rebels fighting against a much larger foe. Focusing on limitations will breed conflict into your story, which will make it more interesting. I can understand the impulse to escape the mundanity of ordinary existence, but the limitations of your own humdrum life might be exactly what your fantastical story needs. And lastly, sign number 5 of poor world building that doesn't serve the story. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that story should come first or that world building should be secondary to plot and characters or vice versa. I think what really matters is that your story and world building work together as part of a larger whole. If you have a cool world building element but introducing it does nothing to enhance your plot or characters, then it weakens the impact of both your world and your story. People will say things like only include world building elements related to the story, and that's good advice, but I don't think it goes quite far enough. Only include world building elements if they enhance your story, and only tell a story which enhances your world. If you love world building, then you should try to find a story that makes your world really pop, a story that explores it in its full depth and meshes well with the world that you've created. A story which really brings your world to life. At the same time, if you hate world building, try to build a world that makes your story stronger, that emphasizes the elements that you love about your story. Put your characters in environments that really challenge them. Figure out world building elements that really bring out the best parts of your story. It's not that world building is more important or less important than story, it's that they're both important and they both need to work together. Being weak on either side will just weaken your entire novel. Just like this video hopefully made your writing less weak. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video and found the advice in it useful. If you want to see more stuff like this, you can check out all my other writing advice related videos and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.